I used to think loyalty to family meant saying ye seven when it hurt, especially when it hurt. For years, I was the quiet one, the stable one. The daughter who made it out, worked hard, built a life, and somehow became the family wallet. At Thanksgiving dinner, my brother's wife smirked across the table and said, "Your parents only love you when you're paying their bills." My mom laughed and added, "You're not welcome unless you clear your brother's credit card debt." I looked around the table, took a breath, and stood up. "You're right," I said, "and that's exactly why you'll never see me again." This is the story of how I walked away from the people who only saw me as a checkbook and how I quietly brought the whole system down. I don't remember the first time my parents told me I was the strong one. I just remember it being said often enough that I started believing I didn't need anything, not help, not rest, not even love. When I was 14, I took a job cleaning offices after school. By 16, I was working weekends at a diner while my brother Ryan slept in. He was always sensitive, overwhelmed, or not built for pressure. I, on the other hand, was independent, smart, and resilient, which in our house meant, you're on your own. By the time I graduated high school, I'd saved enough to cover my first semester of college. No one helped me fill out FAFSA forms. No one toured campuses with me. My mom said, "We're proud of you, honey, but you've always figured things out on your own." As if that was a gift. Ryan, he got a brand new laptop, a dorm allowance, and weekly care packages. He also got probation after a DUI his sophomore year, but Dad said, "Let's not ruin his future over one mistake." When I finally earned my interior design degree, I didn't throw a party. I just took on clients, worked 60-hour weeks, and built a reputation. One kitchen remodel turned into a full condo redesign. Then came commercial contracts. By 31, I had my own firm, 5 full-time employees, and a waiting list of clients in downtown Chicago. I never borrowed a cent. Meanwhile, Ryan switched majors 4 times and somehow never finished school. After bouncing between passion projects and mental health resets, he moved back home again. He said he was launching a consulting business. I later found out it was code for maxing out 2 credit cards trying to start a podcast no one listened to. Still, every time he crashed, I got a call. From Mom. "Elena, sweetheart, Ryan's trying so hard, but his rent is late again. Elena, you know your brother, he's just not as lucky as you. Elena, could you help cover his phone bill this month? Just until he gets back on his feet." At first I said yes, because I thought, that's what family does. We help. We lift. We carry the ones who can't walk on their own yet. But as the months turned into years, the calls didn't stop. They multiplied. I started tracking them one night, every transfer, every favor, every quiet yes. I wasn't angry. Not yet, just tired. Like I was holding up a roof they all danced beneath without ever looking up to see whose shoulders it rested on. And every time I set a boundary, even a small one, I became selfish, cold, the ungrateful daughter, the one who forgot where she came from. But I hadn't forgotten. I remembered everything. I remembered my dad's words the night I told him I'd been promoted to lead designer. "That's great, Elena, but don't work yourself into loneliness." I remembered Ryan's girlfriend Vanessa rolling her eyes when I gifted them a new couch after they moved in together. "It's not my style, but I guess it's free." I remembered the silence after every deposit. No thank yous, no repayment plans, just the unspoken rule, "Elena will fix it." And for a long time, I did. Until the night it all came to a boiling point over turkey, stuffing, and a smirk across the Thanksgiving table. The first time I sent them money, I didn't think twice. Ryan had just moved into an apartment with Vanessa, modern, glass-cornered unit downtown that screamed Instagram life, more than starting over. He called me late one night, his voice low, embarrassed. "Hey, Elena. I hate asking, but we're short on rent this month, just until my next freelance check clears." I wired them, 200 that same night. Vanessa messaged me the next day not to thank me, but to ask if I'd consider helping them furnish the guest bedroom for when her niece visits. I said no. She never replied. From there, it snowballed. Phone bills, car repairs, emergency vet surgery for a dog I'd never heard of, Vanessa's business retreat that somehow required a $700 deposit. Always framed as one time, always spoken with urgency, always landing on me. The part that stung wasn't even the money, it was the choreography. The way Mom called on Ryan's behalf, like she was still cleaning up his scraped knees. "He's just going through a rough patch," she'd say. "He's trying. He's got so much potential." The way Ryan never called me directly, not even once. He let our mother speak for him, thank me for him, plead for him, like I was a utility company and she was the billing department. And Vanessa? She never acknowledged me, except for subtle digs wrapped in syrupy smiles. I wish I could work all the time like Elena. Must be nice not having anyone to come home to. I don't know how you handle all those client meetings. I get anxious just talking to customer service. At family dinners, she'd praise Ryan's creativity and talk about his vision. Vision for what? He hadn't held a job longer than 6 months in 5 years. But Mom lapped it up, nodding proudly while she passed the mashed potatoes. And every time I looked around that table, I realized something sharp. No one saw me as a person. I was a plan, a fallback, a reliable stream of income disguised as a daughter. I tried pulling back. One month, I ignored 3 calls from Mom. She showed up at my office unannounced with banana bread and a guilt trip. "Elena, honey, you don't want your brother to think you don't care, do you? He looks up to you. He's just too proud to say it." Too proud? He couldn't even say thank you. But I softened, again. Because I'd been conditioned by their language, their silence, their expectations. Stowe believed that strength meant self-denial. That giving was how I proved I mattered. That if I stopped being useful, I'd stop being loved. And maybe that was the deepest truth of all. I didn't believe I had permission to walk away. Not yet. So, I kept picking up the phone, kept wiring the money, kept swallowing my resentment like it was my fault for being the one who made it. And then came the engagement. Not mine. Theirs. And with it, a ring so large, it glinted in the overhead lights of our parents' kitchen like it knew exactly who paid for it. Spoiler, it wasn't Ryan. The ring was enormous. It caught the light like it wanted to be noticed. It demanded to be noticed. Vanessa waltzed into our parents' kitchen that Sunday, lifting her hand before anyone even said hello. "Surprise!" she squealed, flashing the diamond around like she was hosting a game show. "It's a 2.5-carat cushion cut," she beamed. Ryan really outdid himself. I stood there, watching everyone fuss and admire it, clapping and gasping like they'd just witnessed a miracle. My mom cried. My dad hugged Ryan and said, "That's a man's move, son." My jaw didn't drop, but something inside me did. Because just 3 weeks earlier, Ryan had called well. Mom had called asking for help covering his unexpected medical expenses. Something about a dental infection, antibiotics, and no insurance. I had wired him $3,800. Now here he was, pretending to afford a ring that probably cost twice that, and I was expected to pretend along with him. So I asked carefully, "When did you buy it?" Ryan stiffened. Vanessa giggled and looped her arm through his. "Oh, he's been saving for months. He's so thoughtful, always planning ahead." I stared at Ryan. He didn't meet my eyes. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my apartment, my own place, paid off, quiet, cleaned. I thought about the couch I didn't replace last year because I'd helped Ryan with his car. About the vacation I'd canceled because of Vanessa's emergency business trip. About every single time I'd said yes when I wanted to say no. This wasn't support anymore. This was theft sanitized through love, legitimized by guilt. And I'd been complicit. But the ring changed something. Not because of its size or sparkle or what it cost, but because it revealed the lie. They were never struggling. They were just never responsible. And they expected me to carry the cost of their lifestyle so they could keep pretending. I started asking quiet questions. Not accusations, just curiosity. I asked a friend who worked in finance to help me discreetly check public filings. I reviewed my money transfer logs. I called the clinic where Ryan supposedly got treated. They had no record of his name. I wasn't angry, not yet. I was calculating. I'd spent years thinking the worst thing that could happen was becoming like the men titled, fragile, dependent. But now I realized the real danger was staying in the role they assigned me. The one who fixes it all, funds it all, and gets nothing but passive-aggressive remarks and forced hugs in return. The Sunday after the ring reveal, I skipped family dinner for the first time in 10 years. Mom texted, "You okay? We missed you." I almost replied. But I knew deep down they didn't miss me. They missed the part of me that kept their fantasy alive. The part that always paid on time. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, Mom called me with a sweetness that felt manufactured. Elena, sweetheart, she began, drawing out the syllables like caramel. Are you planning to come for Thanksgiving dinner this year? We've missed having everyone together. I paused. It had been quiet for nearly a month, no urgent bills, no emotional crises, no guilt-laced voicemails, just silence. That, in itself, felt like a setup. Still, out of habit more than trust, I said yes. That's wonderful, she replied too quickly, too brightly. Everyone will be there. It's going to be such a special day. Red flag number 1. When I arrived that morning, Vanessa opened the door in a designer jumpsuit, hair perfectly curled, her nails glinting with rhinestones. Elena, thank God you're here, she sang. We've been waiting for you. I forced a smile. Her tone sounded more like she was welcoming an investor than a sister-in-law. Inside, Dad was already pouring wine, asking about the business, and pretending to listen. Ryan sat in the living room tapping his leg, barely glancing up from his phone. His shoulders were tense. His eyes darted toward the kitchen and back. Red flag number 2. Something was off. Too quiet, too smooth, too rehearsed. Then came dinner. We gathered around the table, roast turkey, cranberry glaze, stuffing, all laid out like a magazine spread. Vanessa insisted on a gratitude circle, which made Mom beam with pride. Everyone said their piece, Dad grateful for family, Vanessa for unwavering support. Ryan mumbled something about love and growth. Then Mom looked at me. Elena, she said, slicing her turkey like a surgeon, Ryan and Vanessa have some exciting news. I braced myself. We're getting married next month, Vanessa announced, flashing the ring again like it was part of the catering. Just a small ceremony, Ryan added, still not meeting my eyes. Immediate family, very intimate. That's lovely, I said, keeping my tone even. Fast, but lovely. Vanessa nodded enthusiastically. We've already booked the venue. Elegant, charming, very us. We just hit a tiny snag with the final deposit. That's all. I stared at her. I knew what was coming. It hung in the air like a storm. Ryan finally looked up from his plate. We're short on the balance. The payments are due next week. How short? I asked, though I already knew it wouldn't be reasonable. Vanessa leaned across the table, flashing her teeth in a smile that never touched her eyes. Just 25-0. Silence. You could hear the clink of my fork hitting the plate. Mom jumped in, eyes shining with fake compassion. When you break it down, it's not that much. 6,000 for the venue, 10 for catering, 3 for flowers, then the dress, the cake, the photographer. Elena, she continued, her voice dipping lower. This would mean so much to Ryan. And to us. I sat back slowly. They weren't asking. They were expecting. This wasn't a pleat, was a presentation. A well-rehearsed pitch, and I was the target. The numbers, the setting, the false warmth, the timeline. It had all been planned. Like I was a bank, they just had to charm into approving the loan. I looked at Ryan. You haven't paid for anything yet? He cleared his throat. Just holding deposits. The rest is due Friday. The whole table looked at me, waiting. Not for approval. For obedience. That's when I realized this wasn't just Thanksgiving dinner. It was an ambush. I sat frozen for a moment, my hands resting gently on the edge of the table. The numbers were outrageous. 25. 0 for a wedding. And yet, the way they spoke, the way they looked at me, it was like I had already said yes. Like the money was already theirs. Ryan shifted in his chair, suddenly finding the candied yams fascinating. Vanessa, on the other hand, had no trouble locking eyes with me. I mean, she said with a smirk, what else would you spend it on? You don't have a husband or kids, no big responsibilities. We all know you're doing well, why not share the love? My stomach turned. Before I could speak, Mom jumped in, her voice now coated in a mix of guilt and command. Your brother deserves a fresh start, Elena, and if you really loved this family, you'd support that, like you always have. There it was. Not a request, a demand disguised as love. And then Vanessa delivered the final blow. With her head tilted, lips curled upward, she said, Your parents only love you when you're paying their bills. I blinked. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I didn't even flinch. I just looked around the table. At my father, who averted his gaze. At my mother, who didn't deny it, just gave a small, satisfied nod. At Ryan, who remained silent. And at Vanessa, who looked triumphant. It was in that instant that everything crystallized. I wasn't a daughter. I wasn't a sister. I was a funding source, a walking wallet, someone whose value was measured in wire transfers and saved disasters. I gently set down my napkin and pushed my chair back. "Elena," Mom said sharply, her voice rising with alarm. "Where are you going?" I stood. "You're right," I said calmly. "All of you. Every word." Vanessa's grin widened, misunderstanding. "And that's exactly why," I continued, reaching for my coat, "you'll never see me again." The silence was immediate and absolute. Even the air felt stunned. Dad's face went pale. Ryan's mouth parted like he wanted to stop me, but no sound came out. Vanessa blinked, the smirk fading. And Mom stared like she was watching her golden goose sprout wings and fly away. I said, my voice steady now, "more than you ever knew, but none of you loved me. You loved what I gave you." "Elena," Mom started, her tone now soft and panicked. "You don't mean that." "Yes," I said simply, "I do." And I walked out the front door. No tears. No goodbye. No looking back. Just the sound of my heels on the pavement and the heavy, beautiful weight of freedom settling onto my shoulders like the coat I pulled tighter around me. I had spent years mistaking obligation for love. But in that moment, for the first time, I gave myself permission to stop performing. To stop buying approval. To stop carrying people who refused to walk. And that, I realized, was the most valuable thing I would ever own. For 3 days after Thanksgiving, I didn't answer a single call. My phone lit up constantly. Mom, Dad, Ryan. Even Vanessa tried once, then gave up. The voicemails were predictable. Guilt, gaslighting, and the golden phrase, "we're family." I deleted them all without listening. Then, silence. But peace doesn't last long when people are desperate. The call came from someone I trusted, Ethan, a longtime client-turned-friend who worked as a loan officer at a regional bank. His tone was casual, but I could tell something was off. "Elena, hey, just thought I should give you a heads up. Your brother and his fiancée were at our downtown branch this morning. They were asking about a business line of credit." I frowned. "Why would they come to your bank?" "Well," he hesitated, "they claimed they were co-founders of your firm." I went cold. "Excuse me?" They had papers, looked official, claimed Ryan was director of operations, with a 50% stake. I couldn't breathe for a second. "They tried to use your company's valuation as collateral," he added, "but the paperwork raised flags, so nothing got approved." I hung up and called my attorney. Within 24 hours, we had everything. Ryan and Vanessa had forged business documents, falsified equity splits, fabricated pay stubs, even created a fake business email domain to impersonate me. They had approached 3 other banks before Ethan's, fishing for loans to expand operations. The numbers they requested were staggering: 80, 0, 120, 0, even 200, 0. They had risked my name, my reputation, my company, everything I had built for one last shot at pretending they were successful. And I realized, they never loved what I gave them. They envied what I was. For years, I'd been the quiet one, the dependable one, the background sister who worked while they played. But now they wanted to be me without doing any of the work. I sat at my desk, staring at the printed documentation spread across the surface. Emails, fake org charts, application forms signed in forged handwriting. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was done. This wasn't about money. Not anymore. This was betrayal dressed in entitlement. And betrayal had consequences. I didn't scream. I didn't confront. Instead, I gathered. I spent the next 2 weeks compiling everything: screenshots of text messages, wire transfers, financial records, every piece of fraudulent paperwork. I even found Vanessa's old LinkedIn profile, where she listed herself as creative finance director for a company that didn't exist. Then I found the perfect delivery target: Vanessa's mother. See, Vanessa's family came from old money, the kind that wore pearls to brunch and treated scandal like cancer. Her mother, in particular, was a society matron who lived for appearances and controlled the family trust. They had no idea what Vanessa had been doing, and I was about to show them everything. I wrote one sentence on the cover letter. "I thought you should know who your daughter really married and what she's done in both your name and mine." Then I dropped the package off by courier, insured, tracked, and confidential. It wasn't revenge. It was accountability. The wedding was scheduled for a Saturday. I didn't go. Of course I didn't. But I knew it still happened barely. Through quiet sources, I learned they had scaled everything down. Instead of the luxury garden venue they had once gushed about, it was held in a banquet hall on the outskirts of town. No live band, no designer cake, just mismatched tablecloths and forced smiles. But the real event came the morning after. Monday, 2 a.m., my phone rang. Ryan. His voice was wrecked. Elena, he said hoarse. Please, I need to talk to you. It's urgent. I almost didn't pick up. But curiosity won. We met at a coffee shop near my office. He looked hollow, unshaven, his shirt wrinkled, hands trembling as he cradled a cheap to-go cup like it was the only warm thing in his life. She's gone, he said flatly. Vanessa? He nodded. She left last night, took everything, wedding gifts, cash from her parents, even our apartment's security deposit. I blinked. What happened? He dragged his hand through his hair. Her parents flew down yesterday. Apparently someone he looked at me sharply, then softened, sent them everything, the fake business documents, the debt, the loan attempts, your name on forged forms. I stayed silent. They confronted her at the hotel lobby. Her mom was furious, said she'd brought disgrace to the family, cut her off, canceled her credit cards, closed her accounts. I raised an eyebrow. And Vanessa? She screamed, denied everything, but they had screenshots, names, dates. Her mom said, "You didn't marry a partner, you married a mark." I almost felt a flicker of pity. Almost. She looked at me, Ryan continued, and said, "I didn't sign up to be poor." Then she packed her stuff and left. Gone. Just like that. And now, I asked. He gave a miserable, brittle laugh. I'm broke, Elena. Like, actual broke. Our rent's due. Credit card payments, loan sharks. I can't breathe. He looked up at me, eyes bloodshot. I know I messed everything up, but please, help me, one more time, just enough to reset. I'll get a job, I swear, I'll pay you back. It was pathetic, but real. There was no show left in him, no smugness. Just a man buried in the wreckage of his own choices. I sat still, letting the silence stretch. And then I said quietly, "You didn't just mess things up, Ryan. You used me. You treated me like a safety net, no, like an ATM. You forged my company's name, put my entire business at risk, and you never once apologized." He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. I stood, slipped on my coat. "You need to feel this," I said, my voice firm but not cruel. "No one's coming to save you this time. Not Mom, not Vanessa, not me. Elena, please. You always expected me to be your sister, but you never acted like my brother." I paused at the door. "Figure it out, or don't, but either way, I'm done." 6 months passed. I didn't block Ryan's number, but I also didn't reach out. I didn't need to. Mom called twice, left long voicemails filled with sighs and scriptures. "We're a family, Elena. Blood is thicker than mistakes." Dad sent one text, "Be the bigger person." I didn't respond. I had been the bigger person for decades. I had carried the weight, paid the bills, absorbed the guilt, and played the part. And now? Now, I chose quiet. I chose peace. I threw myself into my work, signed 3 new contracts, took a solo trip to Barcelona, sat in silence in a gallery for 2 hours without needing to explain to anyone why. I breathed again for myself. Then, one Thursday evening, my phone buzzed. Ryan. No urgent tag, no all caps text, just a quiet voicemail. "Hey, I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted to say, I'm working now. Double shifts at the warehouse. I moved into a small studio. I'm paying off the cards, slowly. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I wanted you to know I'm trying. No guilt, no expectations, just honesty." It was awkward, raw, underdressed, but real. I didn't call back. Not right away. But I saved the voicemail. Not because I'd forgiven him. Not because I was ready to rebuild anything. But because for the first time, I wasn't being asked for money. I was being asked to be seen. And that, in itself, was a crack in the stone. Maybe, years from now, something might grow there. A conversation, a boundary-respecting connection. Maybe not. But either way, I had changed. I had walked away from the role they cast me in. I had stopped apologizing for outgrowing the people who held me back. I had learned to say no without guilt, and yes to myself. And if there's one thing I know now, it's this. You don't owe your healing to the people who broke you, especially when they called it love. For years, I believed that saying yes made me loyal, that sacrificing my peace for family made me good. But I've learned sometimes the deepest kind of love is learning when to let go. To anyone watching this, especially those of you in your 40s, 50s, 60s, please hear me. You are not required to bankrupt your soul just to keep the family together. Respect doesn't come from how much you give, it comes from how much you value yourself. Walking away from people who constantly take isn't bitterness, it's healing. It's maturity, it's freedom. You can still love them, you can pray for them, but you do not have to fund their chaos, excuse their cruelty, or sacrifice your health for their comfort. If this story spoke to something deep in you, if you've been the giver, the fixer, the quiet one, I hope you find the courage to finally choose you. Let me know in the comments, have you ever had to walk away to protect your peace? Subscribe for more stories like this, because sometimes healing begins with just one voice saying, enough.